station for the village hall and redesign that. So there was a lot of feedback. And again, the housing thing is a big deal because people are prioritizing housing and probably the ice rink as their first two priorities. And they feel we're not listening to them because we're doing something that has really nothing to, they don't see it as having an impact on them and citizens. But they do believe the ice rink would, and they believe housing will have an impact on them. But this is not something that people are feeling is important right now. I probably got 20 comments, emails, people talking to me, calls.
I mean, that was the gist of what I received, and so I just think that I guess we're making public comment on their behalf. Yeah, they could have come to a meeting. They did comment on Facebook. Some of them can't come to a meeting at 2:30. But, you know, some of these people I know voted for me. So I just thought it was appropriate, you know, to bring it up. Honestly, I would have asked, you know, but we can't. I would have asked to have the vote reconsidered. We can't do that. So, you know, we can discuss it at the budget meeting and the SIP meeting and see where it takes us.
So I would like now to comment.
Sure.
Okay. No one has talked about building a fire station. We have talked about having room for a fire station. According to the fire chief, this building is 20 years old. It has some life left, but the following issues will affect its usefulness. The run volume, proximity to people, want to be within a 5-mile radius of most people. The possibility of going to a full-time staff and lodging would be required. Traffic, getting in and out of the current site is more and more challenging, approximately 700 calls a year right now. So and that is the area that the fire chief has talked about in the past that would be more ideal in the future. So if and when the run volume, the full-time staff, the traffic, any of that changes, he will let us know at the appropriate time. So no one's talking about building one at this point in time. We're just allocating some space for it for the future. I understand that, and because I've been on this board for more than a lifetime, that communication is always at the crux of everything, whether it's amongst staff or the board and staff or the public and the board. It's ever challenging. I think we try to do what we can. Can we be better? We can always say that we can be better. I don't disagree with that. But you can't make people show up. And it's easy to comment on Facebook. It's a lot easier to comment on Facebook than it is to send an email. So, not that I don't give credit to the comments that were made, but I don't know who they were, where they came from. Are they Sister Bay residents? Are they live elsewhere? And one of the things, when you talk about the size of the building, and I would like to mention that a little bit because we talked about it at our last month's meeting. This current meeting room is 1,417 square feet. The proposed new meeting room is 1,395. So basically it's the same size. The executive conference room, which is the small room at the end of the hallway, that is 234 square feet currently. What's being proposed is 270, an additional 35 feet. The storage room that we have currently here is 168 square feet. What's being proposed is 314. So it's all very much the same. Is the atrium large? Yes. But we also reduced the chambers so that we could have overflow if we needed it. And I don't think that. And if somebody wants to cut something part of the office area, then please tell me what that would be.
Okay, well, we weren't gonna talk about it, but I did go through 2 years of meetings. I went through all the parks meetings for the last 2 years. Sorry, all the plan commission meetings for the last 2 years and all the village board meetings for the last 2 years. And took account of, who attended every meeting for 2 years. And we had one meeting where we had more than 50 people. That was a short-term rental meeting. We had 76. We had one meeting where we had 55. That was also a short-term rental. The budget meeting, actually, I think we had 52 or something. Otherwise, we didn't have any where we had more than 30. And by the way, that count was inflated because it started in 2020 and a lot of that was Zoomed. In person at meetings. So happy to share that spreadsheet with anybody who wants to see it. They weren't here to your earlier point. They don't come. Just saying. So I just think that it would be, whether we get rid of the atrium or we shrink the size of the chambers or something, I think it would be an appropriate thing to do. And we can go through this, and then Mike can make a presentation. I've got a couple of questions for Mike when he does that. But so that's simply, I just wanted to make a comment on behalf of people who commented to me. So we are now on to the final design review. So Mike, I think you're up. If you can hear us. Hopefully he's got
I
it.
can hear you guys hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank God. Yeah.
Just a correction, my last name is Martin, not Simon. The Peninsula Pulse got that wrong.
Uh-oh. All right. I'll tell
Here I was
Mike.
going to take credit, but we have a Mike Simon that works here, but he didn't draw your building. So
Okay. All right.
let me bring the drawings up real quick here.
So Mike, the one we're focused on today is the site plan. They've already approved the floor plan.
Yep.
For the application view.
The host needs to undisable the attendee screen sharing.
Oh, sorry.
If you would, please. Thanks.
Okay, you should be good now.
There we go. Can you guys see the site plan?
Yes.
So from our last meeting, we moved the proposed site south of the existing farmette. And this is a blow up of that.
Okay.
So we have a smaller daily parking lot, larger, special event parking lot. It's connected to the existing barn for whatever the village wishes to do with that, storage or farmer's market, whatever. One driveway off of Woodcrest, and it's pretty well connected to everything here. So
Yeah, I like the design, but I think at last month's meeting, we talked about, I think I went outside and counted the current parking spaces that we have here at the fire station. I think there were 17. And we wanted 20 out front. you have about 10.
Yeah, there's 9.
There's nine plus the one handicap.
Recording in progress.
We could certainly put 20 out front. However, is there any concern about this? We were going for a residential farmhouse look with a big sea of asphalt out front. Is there any is there any thought to that with trying to minimize the commercial look of this thing, I guess? So basically with that idea though, the parking count is the same, they're just more in the back.
Okay.
So Mike, I have a question. The parking lot, is that in the cost, the $3 million cost for the building?
We are still in progress on the opinion of probable cost right now.
Could you tell me what that means in layman's terms?
So we're part of our contract is to provide the village with an opinion of probable cost, which is not a estimate. It's not an official estimate like you would get from a general contractor. It's costing based on past projects that we've done. So if we've had a parking lot project, which we've had many this year, we can go back to those for history.
Yeah.
Then apply a square foot real world rather than coming out of a book. Real cost to that. But it's an opinion, not a official cost like a general contractor would give you. For
So-
budgeting purposes.
The maybe.
Better than maybe, but not a guaranteed price.
What about like driveways, roads, sewer and
Yes.
water?
Yes.
And sewer and water, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll make assumptions off of where, like for example, existing sewer and water. If it's up north here on County Road ZZ, we can easily do a takeoff to get it to the site. You know how many lineal feet. We have pricing on what lineal footage costs for sewer and water, and we'll put a line item in our estimate for you.
Okay, I just wondered because there'd been some discussion about whether or not that was included, so I just wanted clarification.
Yep.
Okey-doke. All right, gotcha.
So Denise, is the 20 parking stalls out front still a need, or is this okay? I guess as a group too, I guess.
Why are there 2 parking lots?
One for daily use up front, like you're stopping in to pay your bills and whatever, rather than having a sea of asphalt out front. And the other one would be more of an overflow that could be used for other things on the site. We need X amount of parking stalls by your ordinances. Okay, I think Julie helped me out with this. I think there's like 1 for every 200 square foot or whatever employees or whatever. So you're going to be required to have like 50 stalls, unless you have a way to get around the ordinance. But
I'm just curious why there's spots in the front of the building. Seems like that'll be a bit of an eyesore. You'd be better off just putting all the parking behind.
could certainly do that too.
Kind of seems out of balance to me, but again, we're looking at an aerial view, but it looks like it's sort of a little bit off kilter. Ironically, it looks a lot like we have parking in the front and parking in the back here at the fire station. Not official parking lot in the back, but there's a lot. And the drive goes along that side of the building and comes back here. And then you have a note that future access to fire station. Why is that there?
That was my understanding that possibly 10 years from now, there might be a new fire station to the south. I can easily change that note if it's incorrect.
Mike and I
Future,
had
call it
talked,
future development. Call it future development.
yeah, Mike and I had talked about that, and I said, you know, someday that property next door may be used for a fire station or something else. It's village property. We're trying to plan ahead. So rather than whatever gets developed over there, if it is a fire station, rather than have another big asphalt parking lot, perhaps there's a way that we can share them to reduce the amount of asphalt.
This is a 40, right? Lagerquist is a 40? It's 40
Correct.
acres?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So do we know how much space this takes up with this asphalt drive and the 40 stalls and all that stuff? Is this an acre or what is it?
Give me a minute, I can figure that out.
Hold on to those, which I think we discussed, that maybe the farmhouse, but we hold on to the building. I'm just wondering what portion of this, of Lagerquist developing right now. In particular, because there's not much we discussed, we can't do a heck of a lot, coming off of ZZ. Because at that point, people are going, it's hard to slow down there. They're going 45 miles an hour.
There's all kinds of driveway accesses to properties on ZZ.
No, I know, I got you. I hear you. We're a little bit more limited if it's something that, yeah, of course, sure, yeah.
As properties get annexed to, you often reduce the speed limit too.
On a county road.
Yeah, as stuff gets annexed, the village can petition to have that become an official village road and reduce the speed.
And so we're thinking about annexing part of this.
No, well, this whole 40 annexed. Well, we did annex the whole 40. The whole 40 acres is annexed into the village.
Okay.
So we have about 22,343 square foot of asphalt paving,
Plus the building, right?
plus the building, yep.
Building is 8,000, so we're at 30,000.
Now the building is at 95 with the porch on it. So the building proper is
Okay.
7789. The porch is 1,300 square feet by itself. So the total is 9521.
Right, so rounding up, we're at about 32,000. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask an obvious question because I don't know what it is. What's an acre in square footage?
44,000.
Anybody? 40,000, 44,000. Okay.
43,560 to be exact.
Okay. All right. So it's not quite an acre.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's lots of room still left.
Does anybody else have any questions or any point of view on these parking spaces? Mike?
I
What are
mean,
these?
the only thing that surprises me is that contemporary design would not typically put the parking lot on the front of the building. All the parking would be to the rear. And it might save a little money if you combine those for the asphalt company.
But we still have to have, Julie, we still have to have 50 according to the code.
Oh, I can't remember the exact number, but Mike had, Mike, do you remember exactly how many we needed? You know what he has here meets it. I know we had talked about, something in front for ADA accessibility. You know, we had talked about the porch, we had talked about a ramp, making sure people could easily get in the building. So you wanted to have something out front for ADA accessibility.
So without parking up front, the porch, what use would the porch be then? You'd come in through the back of the building to go out front.
Right, then it would only become aesthetic.
Right.
Okay, so we want to keep those 9 in front. That looks a little weird, but Denise, what do you think?
When we had talked about 20, but I understand what Mike was trying to do and not have a bunch of asphalt and just put more in the back. So I think that was a good idea on his part, so I can live with the 10 out front.
Okay, Mike? You can live with the 9 or 10 out front?
It-
Okay.
It'll be up to the board, I guess.
All right, on to the next So this is interior, right, Mike?
Mike, they're moving on to, page A211.
Okay, one
Unless there's
second.
anything- Unless there's anything else you need us to, you want to point out on that.
No, just wanted to get your feedback on it.
So A211 and the, is what we've already approved, just showing the porch on there. Next one, Mike, in the packet is A301.
Just want to make sure I'm looking at the right, same thing you're looking at, so. In the packet, I'm on, where am I? I'm on page 21, Julie?
I don't have a, I do have a page number, yes, 21.
I'm on page 21 right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay.
I'm sorry, I was referring to his drawing number.
Yeah, no, sure. Okay, all right, so there's a flagstone patio in the back?
Yes, that was one we had talked about a while ago. It was basically a meeting space if people wanted to gather outside or smoke outside. There was an area versus just having them on, hanging around like the front entrance. It's also an area for employees because there is no break room or area like that. And an area where you're coming in off the parking lot, so there was an actual entranceway.
Yeah.
Additionally, originally when the building was here, connected to a potential, community garden or whatever, that was a good tie-in through this direction here.
So we have a galley kitchen that has, what's needed, which is great, and it's important. I don't know, I just don't think it's necessary.
Hey, Mike, how's that flagstone gonna be shoveled? Is that sit pretty flat there in the wintertime, or is it gonna be all little notches and pretty rough?
There's a couple different things we could do. We could do a stamped concrete flagstone, which is gonna have texture to it.
Okay.
Unless you want a flat concrete slab.
No, I think, yeah, if I would recommend a stamped one, not a real one, because that's gonna, impede a lot of the snow removal process there.
Yeah.
in Winter.
Yeah. And that's important too, because you got to live with the building,
That was, back area was basically to dress up the back of the building when you're coming in, so it's not just
The back of a building.
the back of a building.
Right. It's a building. So again, I think it's a little elaborate. I don't think we need that much. I think it's fine. I don't think you need a separate pathway into the admin offices. I think just being able to access it from the back, if we need a patio, I think to be able to access it from the back of the building is sufficient.
Well, was that access door there to the outside off of the utility clerk's office there so that staff didn't have to come in the big double doors, that they can just get into the office if they need be?
Correct. Yep.
And would that also be important for fire code?
Well, the minimum is to put a stoop out here.
Is it bad that they have to go through the double doors to get into their office?
Well, winter, it's energy consumption.
Well, how tall is the atrium again?
Truss bearing's 20 feet.
Yeah, with a 20-foot ceiling, energy would be an issue. All right, so my suggestion would be to make the flagstone patio smaller, eliminate the paved, eliminate the walkway into the offices. And, so we can, I don't think it needs to be that elaborate, just me. So, do you have a point of view, Mike?
This might,
Well, there's no.
I wasn't sure if you're talking to Mike on the.
Oh, no, not
Yeah.
yet, like, I'm always interested in his as well, yes,
Yeah,
but,
I think the maintenance point is that we have to make sure that it's easy to maintain, and those pavers are not gonna be easy to maintain. All they do is cost more money up front and then more money to maintain. So
So
I
we
think
could
should- I
just
think-
change the wording then to stamped. Stamped patio.
so stamped is smoother, is that better for you, Eric?
It's still, you're still gonna have to deal with some, catch points, but it's not gonna be as jagged as a real, like flagstone patio. I mean, it's not gonna be as convenient as a, flat concrete slab is. It's, you're still gonna have your little ridges and valleys that your shovels are gonna run into, but, as far as,
It's
that versus a real one, yeah, it's a lot better.
If it's landscape nice, why don't we just pour regular concrete there?
Or you can just do a smooth concrete slab, that'd be, for maintenance purposes, that's going to be the easiest for staff to maintain.
Well, doesn't it lead into the parking lot, Mike?
Yes, it does.
So that would be also less expensive since the parking lot's gonna be concrete.
So I know when, we had talked about this, or at least when Mike and I had talked about it, I know the thought was to try and keep, again, that farmhouse feel, that Door County farmhouse feel. We don't know what that's gonna come in at. Mike's gonna let us know, certainly. If it's excessive, then we can always change that.
Okay.
I think it's going to look a lot better with the flagstone, even if it's stamped. I think,
No doubt, I mean, I'm sure aesthetically it will look better. I'm just trying to be a little bit more practical and trying to save some money.
right, but are you, okay.
No, what were you gonna say, Mike?
I don't know if this is going to be a big enough dent in until our opinion of probable cost is back. I don't know if the substitution of flagstone for concrete is going to be the stamped concrete is going to be that big of a savings.
I hear you, I got you there.
So what I would suggest to the entire group is let's not go for value engineering at this instant until we have an actual number.
Okay. The other thing to
Okay.
consider are the hours that, because we're reminded quite a bit of the hours that the Parks Department has to put into maintaining. Would be now another building. Okay. All right,
It might be easier to shovel than the steps that they do now, though.
another building.
But we
Okay,
won't have the other one.
right. And then what's the surface of the porch? The
Oh, as
floor,
far as like the concrete,
the floor of the porch
Yeah.
is
concrete.
concrete. With a couple steps up, okay,
Nope, it's that grade.
is that great? Okay.
Yep.
So Eric, that should be easier for you.
Mike, what's the building material for the porch?
It's concrete floor.
Okay.
Mike, if we wanted to put porch swings on either end of the front of the building, should we, put some reinforcements in there?
Which can be worked into the framing of it.
What does anybody think about? that idea?
I think you know what I think.
Yeah.
I think it's
No.
frivolous.
Porch swing?
I do. I don't know who's gonna use them.
I think it'll look cheesy.
I just don't know.
Every
who's gonna use
farmhouse almost had a porch swing on them.
I will say one thing. When I told people that they asked why we had an atrium. And I said, it's meant to look like a farmhouse. And no one saw that. Maybe they will when they see it. So I'm not sure that we've been good about communicating that. So I just don't know who will use them and that do we need a porch swing? You and I both know we don't, but so that's my opinion. If it's not expensive, like he said, it's nickel and diamond, right? I mean, at $375 a square foot, that's not gonna do much, so.
Mike, you have, in the chambers, the built-in tables with 12 chairs.
Yep.
I wanted to ask this committee well, first of all, my question to you, Mike, is how much space is that per an individual for a sometimes we have prints, large printouts that, Planning Commission can be looking at, sometimes Parks has had them.
One second, I can get you a dimension. Oops, wrong version.
Because while he's figuring that out, what I was wondering is if maybe the first row of chairs in the room, that tables would be set up there for extra staff. Like if, like where Eric's sitting today. Or if Megan was here from utilities or whatever, that we would have enough room around the main table for who's taking minutes, the administrator and the 7 board members. And then that first row, there could be tables there instead of chairs.
And the tables would be for them, you mean, for like whoever's.
For like what Eric's doing right now. Or anybody that wanted to sit at a table, but for when staff shows up to
It's actually a good idea.
any meeting. Because a lot of times they may not stay for the entire meeting, they're here for a certain time.
Well, I mean, it's fine with me.
And would it give us a little bit more elbow room instead of 12 people around that half moon?
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Well-
I don't mind replacing those chairs with tables, because we don't, as you know, we don't need that many chairs anyway. We should be removing 3 rows. And as far as looking at blueprints and stuff, you should be looking at those on a giant screen. The days of looking at paper laid out someplace in a building like this, it's ridiculous.
No, it's not the same. I'd much rather have a blueprint than trying to blow up to scroll back and forth because it can't all fit on my screen.
No, you're not looking at it on your screen. You're looking at it on a drop-down movie screen.
Right, which I can't make notes on.
Okay, but all right.
That wouldn't work for me for Plan Commission.
Okay. I don't think I've been to a meeting in over a year where someone's brought in anything that we could see that was displayed on like, for instance, right now, that was displayed on a tripod that we could look at.
We had them and I'm not gonna argue.
Anyway, whatever, sure. So if you want, you want tables there instead of chairs, like I said, we don't need 75 chairs there.
I just-
Denise, there's about 34 inches between chairs on the crescent shape, I guess. It's 34 inches here. And then I can take a row out and put maybe 2 tables and 2 chairs if you wish.
You just mentioned that she has to take this call,
No
so
problem.
we can keep
Understand.
discussing.
Well, we took a minute. If people want to send emails, should they be sending them to Heidi or Janelle, or do they send them to a specific website?
They should be sending them to Janelle and then she gathers and shares with the group.
Is that just for parks or is that also for the board?
For the board, it would be Heidi.
Okay, so, but I'm guessing if either or both of them get it, it's fine.
They'd forward it.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, we just have to wait till we have a quorum again.
Sure.
I have
Is this
another,
something, is this something the whole group wants to go with here?
I have a quick question. Are you talking about the chambers now? The village chambers? Well, I want to make it smaller, but I also think what built in, so this would be for the either committee members or the village board. Does built in mean it can't be moved?
Anything can be moved. The thought was to basically build this out of walls. So you can run wires through it and have, power and connectivity at each station here.
Which is smart. I got it. Okay. So they're not, we don't have extension cords and all that stuff. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, that's smart. So it's built into the floor and can't be moved, right? We can't do that in the future.
Pretty much, yes.
Have
It
to
could be
tear
done.
it out.
You could tear it out, put new flooring in it, and make it gone. Or else you could go with a bunch of folding tables. But then you have extension cords. It doesn't look
No,
becoming
well,
a village.
yeah, I mean, we need to make it as efficient, electronically as possible, whatever the state of the art, that would make sense. And then, okay. All right, and then, well, we haven't talked about, again, the state of the art of this building, whether we can have a drop-down screen. And then also, it's also built in so that, each one of the participants are mic'd.
Mhm.
That's in there? Or we haven't gotten that far yet?
We haven't got that far yet. We'll probably have a line item that has a budget attached to it based on, again, we have costing for this from a project we did for the city of Chilton that had all the AV, it had the built-in seating as such. Plus
Yeah,
they
you
had
have
4 or 5 monitors around the room. So no one's at a disadvantage to see things.
Oh, that's interesting. Instead of one big one, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, drop down screens have kind of they've gone away.
Okay, so it's not very good anymore, but a bunch of monitors. Okay, got you.
Yeah, large because the cost of an 85-inch monitor has come down. I mean, you could put jumbotrons in here, relatively inexpensive.
Okay. Okay. Is we bound by code or anything for the size of the bathroom? Rooms, plural?
As far as
How many, we have 4 stalls in the women's, 4 in the men's, and then we also have a 46 square foot family restroom. Are we bound by code for that?
the family restroom, no, that was a request by one of the members of the committee,
Uh-huh.
and I believe the toilet count was. I think we might be like one fixture over. I'm gonna check my notes here real quick.
Okay, I asked because with all the meetings we've had here, there's, 1 stall for men and 1 stall for women in this building. That's why-
Basically, the
All right.
toilets required are basically, I believe the minimum we need is 3. So you've got one extra stall. However,
Okay.
but back when we were talking about this whole thing too, is that this was going to be kind of a multifunctional space with things going on outside that they could easily come in and use the restrooms for.
At some point, going to the bath. Okay, so the family restroom is not is not required, and that at the end stall, which looks like it's handicapped, is
That one
not.
is required. That, yes, the handicap is required in all buildings, but you could get rid of
Metal one, got it.
urinal in the toilet.
Okay, okay. And then the AV storage room, that's 300 square feet. Is there is that seems big to me for AV and storage. Is that
AV, yes, it's also for chair storage as well.
for chairs?
Yep, so it's AV and storage.
Chairs
AV
for-
may AV may take up a 6 foot by 6 foot corner of this room, but you got to have room to put all these chairs and stuff in.
Okay,
Mechanical and sprinkler will be determined by when
I got that.
MEP designers, yeah, when they're on board. This may be too small. We may find that out. I don't think it will be, but
okay.
they have to have space.
Yep.
Hey, Mike,
Yep.
what kind of bushes are in the back slab of the flagstone there?
Just bushes. I mean, we just threw in.
I'm wondering if it would be better to leave a couple of openings for snow removal back there.
Sure.
You know, 'cause I hate to be spraying snow all over these bushes, especially when they're young. And the guys are gonna have to really struggle to, you know, heave it over the top of that area. Is there gonna be any irrigation as far as watering all these plants in the back, or is that just gonna be hose bibs with removable sprinklers at the get-go?
Most likely hose bibs, but Eric, to be fair, we haven't gotten that far down the design path yet.
Okay. So
But
this
that's a
is,
very good question, though.
yeah, you know, with Mike there and everything, as far as they're gonna hold up.
Well, the other thing too would be if there aren't bushes, there's gonna be grass, right?
Right.
And how are we gonna water that?
Hose bibs and sprinklers, you guys don't throw in irrigation,
Irrigation is a sprinkler system, right?
yeah, but that's below ground,
Mhm.
that's, yeah,
Okay, what's a hose bib?
just the outlet coming off the side. of the
Faucet.
wall.
Outside faucet.
Okay, I don't think Mike had any other questions. Denise, do you have anything else for the interior?
It's pretty minor, Mike, but is there either in the vestibule or someplace in the atrium, do we have places, a permanent coat rack, or do you see us bringing in portable ones, which I think are kind of cheesy?
A coat rack could be built in really easy here and here. You could put something on the inside. Yeah, that's completely doable.
Okay. I think there should be a place for coats, just like when you go to church.
They were just talking about the family bathroom, you know, maybe if we don't have that, maybe that becomes a coat room, but I know.
I just asked if it was, everything was for code. So we have
Yeah.
one extra stall in both the men's and the women's. That's above code and the family code. And then you had asked if there would be any changes that anybody would make, I would make to the office area. And I'm wondering there's a conference room there. And if that during work hours, if there needed to be a meeting or a conference room, if they couldn't use the boardroom. If that could be a multiple use and not have a
What
conference
board?
room.
What boardroom?
The boardroom across the hall in the chamber room. If that could be used, if there's I'm not sure what the conference room is for. Of course I know what it's for. It's for if somebody has to have a private meeting or something like that. I understand that. But if the boardroom could be used for that purpose,
And what would you put in its place?
I would try to make this area smaller. I'm just,
So you want,
Trying to do
Mike
that.
would have to redesign it again?
maybe. Because there's space for a future office as well. And we have
Well, the conference could also, if nobody's in there, even though it's a ways away, could also be where people are eating their lunch.
True. That would be good. So the patio could be smaller. I'm just, I know that this is nickel and diming and I'm sure I'm driving everybody crazy, but I'm just. trying
Didn't
to
we,
figure stuff out.
guys, I just wanna make sure we're following protocol here.
Sure.
Didn't we approve I think at the last meeting, we approved all this and what the purpose of today was to look at the site plan, correct?
Didn't approve was to make the chambers room smaller and to move this to the 2026 SIP.
But can you maybe read the
No,
motion?
no, there were two motions.
Yeah, there were two.
That motion failed, I think.
They both failed.
No,
No,
one failed, the first one passed.
Make it smaller, meaning seating wise, but not square footage. We didn't vote on square footage. We voted on seating. I asked for 50. It started out at 188. I asked for 50 and we settled at 75.
just wanna make sure we keep moving along here and follow, don't get in
Sure.
trouble. Motion by Bordeaux, seconded by Aaron's, that the floor plans as well as the elevation drawings for the new administration building that contain railings which were presented by Mike Martin of McMahon and Associates be approved as amended at the meeting. A roll call vote was taken and that passed. It passed. It was
3-2.
3-2. And then there's something in here. Committee members requested Mr. Martin see that a schematic site plan as well as revised elevation drawings and final versions for the building be provided to Schmalzer prior to their next meeting, at which time it is anticipated the project will be approved so that an RFP can be issued for creation of related construction drawings.
Well, it's written that way because at the meeting, he reduced the seating from 188 to 75.
Yeah, that was like 2 meetings ago, though.
That's multiple meetings ago, not
Two
last
meetings, right.
meeting.
Mhm.
So the floor plans were approved at the last meeting. I guess I worry about this because keep in mind, we have exceeded our contract.
Mike, do you see any benefit or detriment on skylights in the atrium for natural light
Yeah, leaking.
leaking?
Yeah,
Okay.
leaking. If you were to put
Alright.
skylights up here, it's completely possible. It'll just have to be detailed in the construction documents very well.
No worries. That's fine, just the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm now on page 23. Is that where we are, or is it 22? We were on 21, which was the interior, yes. So 22, I mean, we can keep going to 22, 23. These are all exterior elevations.
Yep, so 22 just reflects what we told Mike to do at the last meeting by getting us putting that railing in there, revising the elevation view.
Putting double windows up in the gable, adding this trim work here.
Okay, 23.
23 is just the cross sections showing how the roof is going.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No, I asked my questions.
I did as
So
well.
the question I have is, so what happens next is this will go on the agenda at the next board meeting? Because the board has to approve this.
Well, I have to go back and look. I think they already approved it in the CIP once, but I think it's in the CIP again. Saying they're gonna expend the money in 26.
I believe they have to approve the spending before it can go into the budget.
They have to approve the CIP.
Yeah, it's in this, it's in the SIP, right? And that, I guess that discussion starts, at the, workshop, public input tomorrow, right?
That is correct.
So I don't think there's any action for us to take, correct, you know?
We just need to sign off on the changes that Mike did.
Yeah,
Okay.
so now, okay, you had talked about some of that stuff, but do you even want it in the minutes because it can't be included? At this point,
Tell me about that, what do you mean?
okay, so,
What stuff?
okay. Okay, you can talk about the flagstone patio that you could, do they have to make a motion, Julie, if they're eliminating anything so that Mike has some direction?
Well, they had already approved the floor plans, the elevation plans, so that they can't touch. So what this is for was just to present the site plan and get feedback or comment on the site layout.
Okay, so what I'm asking is Berto had suggested that a fixed table be set up. That can't be changed right now, right? That comes later, because those floor plans are already approved.
Right, so that would come when we do the construction drawings.
So that shouldn't be even be in here, so there's no confusion. And then Louise had suggested that, you know, the conference room be eliminated. That can't be in here because that was already approved.
Right,
Right.
that would have to go when, we'd have to look at that when we do the
And the
construction
coat rack
drawings.
would be considered it later.
Right,
Okay, any changes to the office area can come out because that can't be in there.
correct.
Okay. Okay, so for now, then all I can see is Eric was concerned about the flagstone patio. But Mike had said that not be even considered because value engineering will come into play.
He asked us to wait until we
Yeah.
get value
Yeah.
engineering, not to not consider it.
Okay, not be considered, but to wait, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Just as a general rule for everybody, there's 4 or 5 stages to design. There's concept, schematic, design, development, and construction documents before it even goes out to bid. So there's plenty of time to tweak this down the road.
Okay, and then the question about the bushes, that will be with something that'll wait, right, Mike?
Well, that would be a totally separate
Yeah,
landscaping.
so
plan.
should I just take that out then too?
Along with the the irrigation, we might need, if we're gonna irrigate, that might have to be in, the plumber's plan.
Yeah, so I'll take all that out so that that's not confusing, okay.
Does our green plan let us irrigate?
Green tier?
The green tier plan let us irrigate?
Sure. Isn't
Not
that-
usually, it's gotta be, can't take well water for that, or can't use the city's well water for that, it's gotta be captured water.
So we don't have the green tier doesn't have a plan, but we do allow people to keep their wells if it's only for irrigation purposes, for watering plants. They cannot use it as a potable water supply.
But I'm saying, I'm just asking about the irrigation, I'm assuming this property will be on the city well, or the village well, excuse me. Right?
It'll be on sewer and water, yeah.
It potentially would be in conflict for us to design in and spend money on an irrigation system that would be inconsistent with our green tier strategy, is all I'm saying. Because usually you don't use fresh water for irrigation in a green tier initiative, you use captured water.
Our village does not have a plan to that effect yet, Mike, and we have not done that on.
Green tier
anything.
hasn't done it.
We don't
That's what
require
she's
that
saying.
of anything yet. Not saying that's not a great idea. They just have not gotten that far yet.
Well, Kurt's on the call, I think he's, Who's chair of retail?
Kurt.
Kurt, so that's a good
Yeah,
action.
that's,
item.
that's not in our zoning book yet either.
Okay, so then technically, you're not making any recommendations, so you don't have to make a motion, right, Julie?
They have to accept the site plan.
Okay,
So moved.
Berto? Does anybody want to second it?
I really don't want to because I don't support it. So how does that work?
Well, if you don't accept the site plan, then what we do is we just put it out for, it goes to the board. And then if the board approves it, we just do a request for proposals without an approved site plan. We just sound conceptual site plan.
And then do that.
But the plan was moved forward by this committee. We're just short on people. So that's already a done deal.
Right,
So that doesn't mean that you can't approve the site plan just because you were in the minority of that particular vote. I mean, I voted on many things that I voted no on. And if I was in the minority and it was moving forward, I still tried to make what it was the best possible to move it forward. I didn't stop.
well, it sounds like it's moving to the board anyway.
Yeah, so then why are we voting?
Well, let me ask you this, what would you change about the site plan?
I wouldn't build the building.
We're past that though. Now we have to say what.
Well, then I'll just abstain. I
Well,
can
it
do that,
makes no
right?
difference.
Right.
Because
That's
if there's
my
not a
point.
second, it.
I don't want to be on record as supporting this in any way, shape or form. I'm sorry, that's a right I have. That we have residents that feel the same way I do. So I'm not trying to prolong the week meeting. I'm not gonna vote in favor of the site plan. I'm either a nay or abstain, whatever makes it easier for you. I don't care.
Okay, so Denise says your motion, because then we'll.
Don't bother, Janelle, don't bother. I think we should just go on to the next agenda. There's not a second. We're not gonna get a vote on it.
So don't even put it in there, okay.
So Mike, for our purposes, then when I put this out for bid or for proposals, we'll just have to label it as a conceptual site plan and leave it at that.
Sure.
I think that's it, Mike. Thank you.
Mike, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6B, policy for surplus property.
So are there any changes to what I've put in the packet?
I have a question on page 26.
Yes.
Kind of the last sentence of number 2. In the event no local nonprofit is interested in the offer, the department head shall be responsible for ensuring it is donated to a nonprofit in Northeast Wisconsin that can benefit from the donation. Just because it happens to be under $5,000, I mean, just put it on, just do what you were gonna do with the same as number 3. Instead of trying to track down some nonprofit that could take a lot of time figuring out who could use this. If we can't find a local nonprofit for it, then I think it just goes on to the auction website or whatever the village currently uses instead of spending a whole bunch of time looking for a nonprofit outside of the county.
So in the event no local nonprofit is interested, just put it on the auction site.
I mean,
Don't worry about
what does
donating
anybody
it.
else think about?
Yeah, I agree with Denise. I mean, I've been involved in this in a really minor way. Looking for a nonprofit to donate, something to, and it's hard. Hard to find somebody that wants it, and you gotta be prepared to do everything in the world, especially if it's not located locally, to give it to them.
Mike, are you okay with
Get
that
it to
change?
them.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay,
Do you want a motion?
we need a motion on that?
I think so.
We do, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented and amended.
Second. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, that'll go to the next week's board meeting.
Okay. Agenda item number 6C, intergovernmental road project, Town of Liberty Grove, Flint Ridge Road. I do want to just offer this, and this is from Jerry Aaron's, who sent us all an email because we couldn't attend. He said for Flint Ridge, it has been deteriorating, is a heavily used thoroughfare similar to Country Lane for people in large truck traffic looking to bypass Central Sister Bay. I think this would be a good project to partner with Liberty Grove on. I think it is already similar in width to Country Lane, so not sure if it needs to be widened, but I'm willing to trust the experts, / Liberty Grove on their opinion. So,
So so I'm gonna bring this up tomorrow night, and have Vlad put it in the CIP for 26.
Okay. I don't have a final cost on it though, Denise, I just have the estimated. one.
No, he just needs to make a box,
Okay.
you know, so now's the time, we know it's coming. So Liberty Grove gave you no ballpark figure?
They did, I wish I had that note with me, I think it was. I'd have to go back and look, I wanna say it was like $126,000.
Our share or total?
No, I think that was total. But it depends if we're gonna, I know last time the road got a lot more expensive because we were wanting wider shoulders and everything like that.
Okay.
So before we talked further, I just told Bud, I said, but I have to see if we can even do this. And he said, okay, well, I'm willing to hold off and wait for the village. So
Okay.
I just wanna. Like I said, he just got a hold of me maybe 2 weeks ago, so it was too late to get in the budget, but. I do wanna make sure we give him an answer, so we're not. Prolonging it, because if we're not gonna do it, he can just move forward.
Sure.
So.
are they widening end? Maybe,
So it was to,
it just says it's similar to Country Lane, but it's not specific to Flint Ridge.
well, we required it be wide, so I'm assuming we would want the same thing if we wanna do it.
But what about what we just did for the comprehensive plan at Plan Commission, right?
Yeah.
And what did when we drew the map, what does it show out for Flint Ridge?
I think it shows the wide shoulder, Denise, only because I knew that at the time and I was pushing,
But
I'm
does
like,
it also show any trail or a bike lane on Flint Ridge? I can't remember exactly what we added to the comprehensive plan.
that's a good question. I'll have to, I can't remember it, I'll be honest with you. I think it was showing a trail at some point. The problem is we don't have any easements out there, but I can definitely look that up.
So we're talking about between 57 and Woodcrest, is that the section we're talking
Yes.
about? And the reason this is an issue is because that's a border between Liberty Grove and Sister Bay,
Right,
so it's half and half.
yep, Liberty
Well-
Grove is doing it, and they're like, they can just do their part, or we can partner together and make the road better.
I'm on that road a lot, just because I choose to just drive that way. I, change up different ways on my way back from the dog park. And, or if I want to go around downtown, to be honest, on a Saturday or something. So I think it's a good idea. If we could do a bike lane, that would be great. But, that bike lane has to connect someplace else and,
And it doesn't connect. to
exactly, it's
Woodcrest,
gotta go
no.
someplace else. So I'm not sure that's, and I'm not a biker and I have no business planning bike lanes. So we talk to people that actually ride bikes and need them. But, how much did Country Lane cost?
Well, maybe 95 was maybe our share.
Okay. All right. And this is, I don't know if it's about the same length or not. But
I
the
think
thing
it's
is
shorter.
shorter. Yeah, I'm fine with putting it into the SIP. For next year, or sorry.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Year after.
I am too. But I just think it's like the first thing that pops up after we just had that comprehensive plan discussion with the maps.
I'm gonna check, so when it comes up
Thank you.
tomorrow, Denise, I can have some answers.
Okay.
If we add the wide shoulder, parts of that road, there's a lot of trees. So I don't know, we probably should have a discussion about what's gonna happen to, if anything's gonna happen to those trees.
Well, they would stay within the right of way,
Okay.
that one shouldn't affect it.
Okay, all right. Do we need a motion?
I think by consensus, if you guys are okay with it, moving forward to continue to put in the CIP and continue to work with Town of Liberty Grove on it.
Okay. Agenda item 6D, like David, consider policy regarding correspondence and deadline. I'll read what Jerry had to say. For deadline for submittals for the packet, I think end of day 3 working days before the meeting day is appropriate. This allows a day, Thursday, for staff to review the correspondence and add it to the packet for delivery to committee members, end of day for delivery to committee members. So 3 working days. So for instance, the meeting today. So Parks is always on a Monday. And so, 3 working days before the meeting day. So that would mean Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. They have to submit it by Wednesday. I think that's too late. I think it should be sooner than that for staff, in my opinion. Should be 4 days. To put it in the packet. But I would defer to staff for that.
Well, one of the concerns I have is if you're doing 4 days before, that means the packets are. Agendas and the staff reports and everything, and the packets are being finalized an extra week in advance, which means,
They are?
yeah, because I mean, right now, the packet is put together on Thursday, right? Late
Yeah.
Thursday, so we can get it out on Friday.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, so if now you want it to go out,
No. It's not going out any earlier.
I don't want to go any
well, how
earlier.
would the public comment on it if they don't have it?
I'm sorry.
If they're just sending
This is just public comment on
Just
anything, you know,
on
just
anything,
public comment for an upcoming meeting. That's what
Not
I,
anything on the agenda?
no, not anything on the agenda. If they have a comment on what's on the agenda,
they have to,
they can
they
come to
have
the
to
meeting
zoom in.
or
Okay,
Zoom.
so just some random, not related to an agenda item
Mhm.
thing.
You
Well,
could,
anything.
anything. I mean,
Anything.
seriously, it could be like this gentleman commented on, you know, he read a month ago or so about storage for boats, you know, or comment on whatever. Mhm.
But if they're commenting on the agenda, that would not apply.
No, it would apply.
But the agenda, how can they comment on it if the agenda's not out yet?
Then they have
They gotta
to
come.
zoom in
Zoom or attend.
or attend.
Yeah.
Because we can't get constant emails as they come in or to you or to,
So in reality, the way it is no written correspondence. Because how would somebody get us written correspondence before the packet went out if the agenda and the packet's not even, if they don't even know what's on the agenda?
Written correspondence for, I think what you're saying is no written correspondence for a current agenda item. Because that wouldn't meet the deadline. Is that what you mean, right? Okay. And so at this point, and I always thought this was the village's policy. Yeah, if you want to comment on a current agenda item, you attend the meeting and it's up to the chair if you get called on, you know, to make a comment, or you zoom in and it's up to the chair if they.
Well, or they could submit an email, because we have a public participation plan.
Okay,
Granted, we just did that one, we just updated it with the comp plan,
yeah,
but we try to foster engagement. Right, we try to be transparent and get people involved in things.
okay,
So we have been letting them comment, right up to the meeting.
okay, so they email something, that would go
Yeah.
to either Janelle or Heidi, depending on if it's, you know, on what committee or board it is. And then that would be given to that would be emailed to the members, right?
With the packet,
With
yeah.
the packet.
Now
Okay.
the difference is if there's
yeah,
a
but we
public
get all
hearing.
kinds of things after the packet. And that's what I'm saying is. I don't
Once
check
the-
my email, but,
Yeah, and so,
and so then there's there could be a handful of emails, you know, how many emails have I read? Sorry, Janelle's email, more late correspondence or whatever, and sometimes I simply am just trying to read the packet that I had and get to the meeting and haven't checked everything else to see that there's this plethora of other stuff.
So Julie, it seems like if we get these emails, the challenge is the administration of getting it out early, but could we make sure they all get read before every meeting? And we just read them, because there aren't usually that many, are there?
Correct, Mike. If we have letters rather than staff sending them out, they could just read them into the record at the meeting.
Right.
I don't know. I think there was an issue with that in the past, wasn't there? Did people want to see them ahead of time? I think, I don't know.
We used to do that, and then some of the committee members didn't like it. Because they wanted some time to think about the issues that were brought up.
Are we talking about just for parks, or we discussing this in general and?
I
This
think
needs
it
to be,
applies to I mean,
That was my assumption it applies to.
we're just talking about it here for us, but I think that's the way it is on all of them, correct? By the time the agenda goes out,
oh, for sure it does,
It's-
yeah. But we don't have any written policy on this anywhere?
No,
just the public participation plan that says you're gonna foster public participation and encourage people to
Which I
participate in.
am
persons with
110% in agreement with. And so if somebody emails the day before or the day of the meeting, you get the email. This happened at the Parks meeting last month. You saw it. And so the email is then read at the meeting. That's what we're saying, right?
I mean, I think that could go on the agenda saying, you know, letters received, written correspondence will not be shared with individually with committee members, rather it will be presented at the meeting.
Just
Leave
like
it
a
at that.
public comment would be, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's fair.
I mean, I remember when Janelle used to read them all.
Oh,
When I was president, I would read them.
So
well, and a lot of times you read it. If you were
That's what I
chair.
said, when I was president.
Yeah, when you were chair of probably plan commission. Yeah,
yeah, so if we want to do that, we would just put it on, I mean, we decide right now, but we would just put it on the public notice part at the bottom, explaining written correspondence will not be accepted.
yep.
Or I'm sorry,
Wait a minute.
written correspondence will not be shared individually with members, however, it will be read or summarized at the meeting.
If it comes in after
If received, after the packets have been, after the
That
packets have
seems
gone out.
very fair.
yeah.
After the packets have gone out. Now, they may not know when the packets are going out because that varies slightly, but either way, they'd be heard.
And I would say
The point is, the
before,
goal is that they're heard. Okay.
and I would say before the day of the meeting too, because otherwise,
Day of meeting is confusing.
or give them a date or a time. I mean, we do that on the public hearing stuff because one of the challenges, if you don't set a cutoff point, somebody could say, but I emailed Janelle at 12:04. Well, it's the day of the meeting. Janelle's not sitting there checking her email at 12:04.
At
She's getting
midnight.
ready for.
Right, or at noon. Mhm. Okay,
okay,
so do you want to read that?
that any public written correspondence that is received after the digital meeting packets have been distributed will not be shared individually with committee members.
But will be read into the record
will be-
at
Yeah, right.
the
But-
meeting.
Okay, but
Perfect.
will be read into the record at the meeting.
Which is good, because that means the public can still comment. It's just that it's not gonna be sent out.
And so then we don't have to. Pertinent.
You want to say something that correspondence that's received prior? Well, that's kind of a given.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Next item, agenda 6E, Mill Road East parking report from me. All right, so, my husband and I went to CHOP 4 times since we last met on a Saturday. And I'm happy to report no one parked in the yellow striped area. I also received an email from Chris Schmelz. Not in this email, hold on. And what I don't think I knew, but maybe you may know, Julie. So what I'm saying is I think that the yellow stripes worked. Hold on. And he said, let me find this email so you guys, I don't misread this. Here we go. Okay, here we go, okay. He said, the striping seems to be working well, but wanted to get your input to confirm this. Blah, 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 blah. We installed a camera facing the intersection to capture the flow during Labor Day weekend and had a traffic study group review. And then he's got some clips, they're wrapping up the traffic study and then gonna forward it to us. That's just informational for the committee, but yes, it does seem like it worked. This weekend will be interesting. It's pumpkin patch. That's always fun filled. So I'll drive by a couple different times. But the yellow stripes seem to be working.
Excellent.
Yeah, which is really good news. Yeah. Okay, on to here. Okay, next up is Mill Road West landscaping design. This was about doing some, sorry, Julie, you take over.
Sure, so my update for the committee is Kaylee has left Door Landscaping. I know,
She did?
yes, and
Yeah.
so we have a new contact, his name is AJ Burks. And he wants to meet me on site before he does a order and a design.
Okay.
And
Did
we
you go to
sort of
another
met that-
landscaping company?
She's had so much on my brain, Louise. I think she told me she was moving away to be by family.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so maybe by next meeting, you will have met with AJ. Okay.
So what's the employee, AJ, what?
Burks.
Works, okay.
Okay, next up is agenda item 6G, pro housing grant application.
Okay, so, so this came about as, I think everybody knows, very fast. The housing committee decided they wanted to try and go for the grant. This was discussed by the housing committee. Has not been presented to the board or any committee, other committee for approval, so looking for feedback, you know, I know the policies that are in here have not been approved by the board. But basically, I want to talk about any of your concerns, even if that's about the policy. Because we do have to submit this next Monday if we're gonna try and get the $6 million.
Okay, do we have anybody have any input?
I guess my question is, having worked for the Obama administration and overseeing some of these grant applications, they do back check some of this stuff, and it seemed like we were a little loose with some of our data.
Which one, Mike? Because everything has a source and.
It wasn't, I didn't see any source where there wasn't a sourcing document that I saw.
There doesn't have to be for this grant, but I do put the source in every paragraph. When I cite the number, I put the source. In the beginning, I talk about like wherever it says ACS data. I talk about that whenever you're seeing that, that means it's American Community Survey data, and I give the year.
So some of the local data though, just didn't pass the smell test. I'm trying to pull it up right now because it's.
Yeah, let me know, because everything in here has a data source. I know some of it seems overwhelming. But it's all data sourced. I mean, I have the,
Sorry, so I had just a couple of questions. There we go. Sorry, took me a little bit to find it. Confused myself and I have more than one laptop, which is kind of silly. So here's my first, it's not a concern, but my first question was, I did attend both of the housing committee meetings. And, you know, as you know, I didn't understand why we needed a housing committee tell you the truth. And I was verbal about it, I was vocal about it at the village board meeting. And Denise reminded me what the purpose of the housing committee was. And, you know, and then when I was first elected, Heidi sent me over the rules of order and organization for the committees. And so I looked at that again, and, the housing committee is tasked with identifying a housing model, impediments to affordable housing, and address design, financing, physical layout, as well as other aspect involved in community provided workforce housing. And at the first meeting, the packet included the Stantec, the Stantec presentation, and then a recap or overview that you did on housing in general, and what the village has done for housing. And I felt like, so the Stantec presentation, you didn't really review it with the committee, you assumed that they'd read it and understood it. And then the next discussion was this overview, the overview that you had done for what the village had done so far, going back to the Wiltsey Committee and so forth. And then talked about, the new pro grant that had just been dropped by the Biden administration. And of course, I mean, I think as a committee member with not a lot of knowledge of what was going on necessarily, agreed, yeah, you should go for this. And so my question is that, I think that the committee should start with what their purpose is, which is to look at and come to the village board with a recommendation on the very best model to be used at Wiltsey for developing housing, whether it's single family homes or whether it's apartments or whatever it is, and on green space and
That's
so
not the
forth.
model. That wouldn't be the model.
It wouldn't be the model, I'm sorry.
When I talked about the housing committee's task would be to come up with the model is,
A housing model, impediments to affordable housing, address design, financing, physical layout, and so forth. That's their,
is, the
what they're tasked
housing
with.
model is how does it operate? Do we give it to, do we partner with the housing trust? Do we partner with Habitat?
That's part of it, right?
Does- Okay, well, I'm sorry, then I misunderstood what you were saying, because you were getting into what kind of homes to be built, which yes, it did say in there, but the model itself,
The model, like how do we do it, who do we partner with, and so
Yeah.
forth.
how does it stay in
Agreed.
perpetuity?
100%,
Okay.
absolutely. But none of that has been discussed. And we went from, that meeting was discussing or reviewing there was no over, it was assumed that everybody had read the every one of the committee members had read the Stantec proposal. And then there was an overview that Julie went through, 2 or 3 page overview of where Sister Bay is with housing in general, what's been done in the past, where we are now, and then a conversation about the program. So what I'm saying is that I don't know that, not that you want to look, a grant like this, you want to ignore it, but this is an infrastructure grant for a property and we don't know what we're doing with it. So that's one concern I have. And I have a big concern relative to the committee that they understand what they're supposed to do, because after that meeting, I spoke with Marissa Downs, and Marissa Downs has no idea what that committee is supposed to be doing. So you should be aware, the chair should be aware of that. That's a concern.
So Louise, they were all given a copy of the mission, so they understood what the committee was about.
So maybe Marissa didn't read it, but it was never discussed at the meeting. It wasn't. Anyway, okay.
And I'll be honest with you, it's because. Sorry if this sounds bad, but it took a long time for the board to appoint that committee. And it came around where it's like, it's now our first meeting and there's this grant, what are we gonna
There's
do?
a sense of urgency, I understand
So
that too.
it's, and we had also talked about at that meeting, if you remember, and I think you were on the call when we talked about it, that. We're gonna have to try to do this and then come back and regroup. And discuss the other things we're supposed to be talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm,
So it's not that they're, I mean. And yes, they were sent copies of everything, they were sent copies of Stantec, no, I am not gonna go through that. I do expect them to do their homework, they had that in advance, they were also told, you know. If you have questions, let's talk about it, we had even talked about that at our meeting, you know, is there anything? That anyone wants to talk about, otherwise, let's focus on this, I had summarized it. Yeah, there's not a lot of time, by the time the board finally approved this committee, this grant was already out and we were a month behind.
I understand all of that, but I still believe that the path for this committee has started by the parameters and the time sensitivity for the grant. And I think that the committee should have started with what they were tasked to do. And their attention went, yes, they know what they should know what they were tasked to do if they were given that document. Yes. But the first discussion for half of the first meeting and all of the second meeting was the grant. Getting the grant, getting this infrastructure grant, and we don't know what we're doing there. And that is, I think it's putting the cart before the horse. I know we don't have to spend the money until 2030, according to the grant, which is great, because I don't think we should.
Was it that far out? I thought we had to do it much sooner.
I'd have to go back and look at it, I mean,
I thought we
you
had
have
to
to
use
start
it
it
by-
within. A certain period of time, but
I have it here, I
So
can
I-
look it up, but I think it's
I'd have
2030.
to look at it, but I guess the question is why, okay.
Why not?
The option is, do we just not try?
I assume that that's something that you would say. I can understand it to that extent, like, why not just try? And I don't want to be the person that says, well, don't even try, because when I look at who has been granted previous to this. So there were two communities similar to ours, Jackson Hole and Bend, Oregon, both got this grant, each for $2.5 million. And again, it's an infrastructure grant. And, you know, most of what they wrote about and they didn't have to do with what they want to build. It had to do with removing barriers to do it. And the model to do it. And we don't have that. And my other concern is I'm not sure that it's accurate that in here you state that when you spoke to, I think it was Fran from Portside, right?
Who said he can build 3-bedroom houses for 225 to 250?
Right, right. So when I look at the other, and you do cite, Geneva Ridge. So, I mean, Geneva Ridge now has, the lowest one they have is $270,000 for 1,000 square feet. That's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. There's another development called Red Tail Ridge. These are condos that Maurice Redmond's doing in Fish Creek.
Yep.
And hers are, again, this is the same company, this is Portside. And they are doing currently, their pricing is for a 3-bedroom, they do have a 1.5, an attached 1.5 car garage, but a 3-bedroom, 2 bath floor plan C is about 440,000. Now, these are condos, so there'll be an association fee, but I'm just talking about the actual building of them. So even if we were to look at something much smaller and more affordable, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 800 square foot ranch, that will be, where are we? Hold on. 340,000. I think we need, I really, I don't know that. I mean, maybe it's been a while since we talked to him. I'm not sure that that's doable right now, especially when you consider that in Sturgeon Bay, it's 20% cheaper to build there. And Sturgeon Bay gave them $1 million. They created a TID. They got $1 million. And Fish Creek got money.
So,
So,
you're also assuming that you're gonna go with a particular builder. What you have to do is you have to set the parameter and we have to put it out for bid. And builders have to bid on that then to see who is willing to come in and do that project at the costs or with the parameters that we set. And then we also do a development agreement to lock them into that.
I understand that, but you quoted them as saying they could do it.
I don't believe there's a quote in there that they can do. It talks about how we had talked to a builder who could build. I think it says 3 bedroom,
3 bedroom. Mhm.
3 bedroom for 225.
I want to make a slightly different comment in terms of the
Sure.
feedback, and I've got a few notes here, but I'm not gonna go through the specifics. I kind of got what you're trying to do in the grant, but I think we painted a picture of Sister Bay that's not accurate. And anybody that investigates is gonna say, hey, you know, some of the income numbers, the poverty numbers, the single parent numbers, there's a lot of data in there that is not passing the smell test. And I think the issue is, if we do this and it's not accurate and it gets tested, we'll have a hard time getting a grant in the future. And if somebody could visit here, that's happened. So I was not comfortable with some of that data or the way we represented our community. Now, it's, I'll be happy to understand better your data, but I think you have to be careful with that. So grants are great. We want to take as much of the federal government's money as we can, because God knows we're all paying into it, so we should get our fair share. But I think you got to be very careful. And if in the rush, we did this in a way that'll hurt us in the future, we might be better off waiting. The other issue is with these building construction costs. There's several builders you can talk to. I don't think we're gonna, even in a competitive environment, the lowest cost builders are gonna bring in labor from out of town, and then they're gonna have incremental costs associated to bringing labor in from out of town, housing them, which is a problem, right? So it's not, 250,000 as a target for single family, that also is not passing the smell test.
So as far as the statistics go, Mike, I can give you the data source on every single statistic in this document. The problem is, people here don't realize how bad it is. Everyone's in la la land here. They don't
That's
realize.
not
That is
accurate.
not true.
That is not fair.
It's
We
not
live
fair.
here
Maybe
every
not,
day.
maybe not, maybe that's
It's not fair.
But I can
There's
tell you, Mike,
1,200 people that live here. I probably know more than half of them.
but Mike, what I am saying is, the data that's in here, I can back every single statistic up in
Well,
here.
I get it, but all I'm telling you, you better be prepared, because if it gets exercised, if somebody decides to check it and it's not good, we'll have a hard time with the current administration ever getting a grant again.
Sure, no, I understand that, everything that is in here, every statistic that is cited in here is, it's either ACS data, it's HUD-HAMFI data. Alice uses the HUD-HAMFI data. What
And
is
what's
the other main
ACS?
stuff? ACS is American Community Survey, it's US Census data.
Because I looked at the census, because when you say 91% of parents in the village are single moms. I mean, Lauren Aurelia said to me, how is that true?
It's
And I mean,
91%.
she used to be a single mom.
It's 91%, I believe, if you look at, I think it's 91% of the females that are living in poverty.
It says 91 of parents in the village are single.
Maybe
moms.
the language just got accidentally
I mean,
adjusted.
23% of residents
just
under
said?
60. 23% of residents under 65 have a cognitive or mobile disability.
I mean, I was with a group of Gibraltar parents who were counting up single parents who send their kids to Gibraltar Elementary.
Hold on, I'll tell you where it is, just a
Yeah.
minute. And then you said the cost to update zoning codes is $100,000. I think I'm right that the cost to do that, and you do mention it here in the grant. I think the $100,000 is your work, Heidi's work.
No,
No,
that's a
that's
quote,
hiring a company.
that's a quote from a company.
Okay, is there any reason that we wouldn't do that internally, or is it just too comprehensive?
Really?
I don't know, I'm asking, I'm truly asking. I don't know, I really am truly asking, I'm sorry if it's funny.
It's a huge project.
It's a
Okay.
huge project and
All right,
I've written zoning codes, but Louise, there's no time.
okay, I got you, I asked the question, now I understand, I got you. I'm trying to find the line where 91%, because it's in here, just a minute. I also think that, and we did get feedback. Got feedback that in no way, shape or form does anybody want their taxes going to, build housing for J1s.
There's nothing, yeah, and there's nothing in here that says they would use tax dollars for J1
Right,
housing.
right.
Somebody sent me a comment on that too, and I'm like, that's interesting, because there's nothing in here that, other than the infrastructure going through the road, but the business would pay for that lot and that.
Right, and they
infrastructure.
don't understand that, but that's still a. And there was also some discussion about, what are we doing with the lots we already own? And also the need for apartments versus single-family homes, because, I think I brought this up at the last meeting. Even what I think needs to be understood better is even a $250,000 home. With a 3% mortgage, if it's in that neighborhood and nothing down or even a small amount down, may not be affordable, may not be how people, what would be defined as affordable. By that, I mean, that's probably a $1,600 house payment. And
So-
that's what we're charging for apartments that we say are not affordable.
I can't tell you whether you should go ahead with this grant application or not, but I think, what do we know? I think all of us have heard that housing is important to the residents of the community and people that work here. It's important. So should this be high on the priority list? Yeah, but I'm not sure exactly how to solve the problem. It's not an easy problem to solve. If we could just, get the federal government's money and put it in the bank until we figure it out, great. But my feedback is be careful with this grant application, because if they exercise it and we're not accurate, it could impact our ability to get grants in the future. And I'm sure you've had this experience
You know, I've
yourself.
gotten grants for a long time. I don't know of anybody who would lie about a statistic or misrepresent a statistic. They're,
Well, I think we had something in about the cognitive capabilities of people under 65, and we
I got
had
it right
really,
here.
that number. I'm having a hard time getting that to pass the smell test too.
23% of residents under 65 have a cognitive or mobile,
Where are
meaning
you seeing
mobile.
that? I'm looking at.
Now, I know we have the scan, and those are residents and they count, so that would be a big chunk, I
Yeah,
agree.
it's.
But those are typically people over
So
65 years old.
of your disabled people under age 65, 17.3 of them have some type of cognitive disability. and 6.1 have an ambulatory disability.
So that's 23%. Yeah, yeah.
And there's more if you look at vision and hearing.
Under 65.
Yeah. Of your disabled people under age 65.
At the age of 40, everybody gets glasses. I just think we paint, I
It,
don't
you
know.
know, that's ACS data.
I got it.
It's just what the federal government
Okay.
records in the census.
Again, I'm not giving you a strong piece of feedback here. I'm just saying we gotta be careful with it.
Sure.
The other thing that, I mean, you're making some assumptions here that I'm not sure are, senior citizens are 50% of the residential population. They own their own homes. This demographic will undoubtedly move into an assisted living facility, relocate, or pass their home on to the next generation. Undoubtedly, that is not true. So you don't know that, but I see that you're trying to make a point to let them think that, so we get the grant. But, most of them, and I'm one of them, I'm not moving into an assisted living facility. I'm not relocating, and I'm not giving our house to our son. I am looking for a reasonably priced, apartment if and when we ever leave.
You
The
said you
home
didn't
that
wanna
we're
live
in.
in an apartment.
No.
You said you wanted a 3-bedroom home.
No, I said a 3-bedroom apartment. I don't wanna, I wanna rent. I don't wanna own anything. So a smaller sized apartment would be fine. But we're making assumptions here, and again, we're, you know, we're splitting hairs. But, you
I can
know,
look at how that's worded, Louise, to make sure it's very clear that's.
they won't
I thought it
undoubtedly
said-
do, I don't know. But what I would say, I just wanna go on the record that I absolutely know we need housing. I so know we need housing, and I want housing. I want to define what affordable is, and what does the village have to pay to make something affordable for our residents or people that are moving in here. That's what I'm really struggling to understand. And I believe that whether it's a village board member, a committee member, me, or anybody else, I don't think any of us have the expertise to know what we're gonna need in 10 years or 15 years. We need an expert to come in that has that data, that it's not a builder, you know, not a developer, but somebody that has the data that can say to us based on what we're seeing, the data we have, this is what you guys should do. In the past, we've gone to people and said, this is what we want.
So
So,
Louise, that's what we did pay Stantec to do, and that's on page 70 or 33 of the plan,
yeah,
which talks about exactly what you need. And they go to 2043. And which does cover us, because at 2040, our population is supposed to stabilize and start dropping off.
I'm not sure all the data was from the Stantec study is because they talked a lot about single family homes. And we talk a lot about single family homes. And I think that we should give more consideration to apartments or more density rather than just single family homes, because I think every discussion that we've had so far has been apartments will be last.
Well, I think when Julie held those open houses, I think that there was a variety, and I think, I can't remember, the document was long and, but I think you stated in there what those people were looking for.
What they wanted, it's what they can afford.
You know, we also, you know, the Stantec stuff talks a lot about the apartments that you need. And this plan talks about it too. It talks about how to develop those sites off Northwoods, and it talks about building single family homes consistent at the same time you're doing apartments and how you're gonna incentivize the apartments. So I don't know how else to make it clear that we'd be moving forward with apartments and homes.
It just looked like we were really focusing on single family homes because I, like you, I did a recap of our housing inventory in Sister Bay. I went to our appraisers. I went to Action Appraisers to get numbers. I understand that you had a different source. Our numbers are slightly different, but we have, 259 apartment units, which is 17% of our total housing. Our single-family homes, we have 706, which is 45% of our housing. And condos are 38%. So if we want to put 140 houses out there, and we already have 700, that's a lot. Without adding some, I think we should be thinking about apartments. And high density. First of all, it's more affordable for developers, not that I'm trying to like give them a big break. But I'm also trying to think about what the village is gonna have to spend, what we have to spend to
Yeah,
make it
that,
happen.
and that's why this does talk about the need to move forward with both plans. One is developing the Northwoods property with apartments or townhouses.
Mhm.
And then on the Wiltsey property, incentivizing it with apartments and townhouses and doing the single family dwellings.
So that I can explain this when people ask, is the thinking that we're not necessarily gonna be using our expense budgets or capital budgets, we're gonna be creating incentives that reduce the cost, or maybe we are using some tax dollars to provide some infrastructure, but we're doing the modeling to say, even if this is lower cost housing, we're still gonna get taxes, property taxes on this stuff, so it'll be a bit of a wash over time, or is this just, are we just donating this to this project? That part's not clear to me, and
Yes.
it really wasn't that clear to me in the
So-
grant application, but I'm not sure they asked for that information either.
So the Wiltsey property was $432,000. That's what we have into it right now.
Mm-hmm,
Granted, with this grant, you're not paying for the infrastructure. Without the grant, you're paying for the infrastructure, which is $3.5 million. With this grant, the thought was that they would get the value of the land and the infrastructure gifted to them. And yes, because at that point, the only cost the village has into this is $432,000. Without that grant, where we have to pay for the infrastructure, we have to probably look at a different model, more like the Geneva Ridge, where they pay back that infrastructure over time.
so you create
yes,
like
the
a
thought-
TI, or how do you, what kind of tax entity do you create for that, so they can pay it back over time?
So it's, the city maintains that,
The
in
village.
Sturgeon Bay, the city does it, so we would have to do the same thing.
Emulate what
Much
they
like
did.
we have deferred assessment, deferred payments on our sewer and water right now. We have people that didn't pay up front, so they have to pay a little bit every year.
All right,
And then, yeah, the thought is their taxes will come back and pay for that. But we have to keep the other side. That also means you have workers here that are keeping your businesses open and providing services. Because without it, we know that people are leaving. We have businesses right now. We just had one that decided to sell because they couldn't find any workers. So I mean, I look at it more from a community-wide perspective and not just say, are their taxes gonna pay off the cost of the infrastructure?
well, I think you have to do both.
Yeah, you
I
do
think
that.
we have a responsibility to give the game plan to the village residents. Because I'll tell you what, it depends, if it gets presented the right way, you can really rally people around this. It gets presented the wrong way, that it's 140 additional single-family homes and we're gonna give them away, that's gonna be a problem. Now, it's not either of those, right?
Right.
But it's important.
Right, I agree with Mike.
I also think too, to your point, Mike, is that sometimes no matter what we do, people just don't want you to spend any money, period.
I understand that too, I get that, yeah.
But my point is that even if it costs the village some money, I'm not saying how much, that we have to, I think, those of us sitting around the table on the village board have realized that if we don't do something, and it will come at some cost to every taxpayer in the village. But if you can't find help, but they expect, you know, the gas station to be open. I had people complaining all this weekend because two of the other gas stations were closed early because they didn't have any help. And so at some point in time, it is going to affect more businesses.
I agree with you. I don't, I
They
also,
want the services, and that to a certain degree, unfortunately, has to come to a cost for everybody, and hopefully it's fair and reasonable.
but I think every community has to make investments in itself, and every community is a little different, and they have to make investments that make sense for them.
Yeah.
And housing and people are important to us, I agree. But we have a lot going on. We got $18 million of SIP spending on the table right now, if I add up everything I saw on the Pulse this week, right?
Some of that is grant money. It's all not levied money.
That's true.
Okay, but in any case, we gotta maintain it, and I'm a little afraid that that may be where we've underestimated the cost, right? Because Eric is gonna be overwhelmed in a short period of time here. But in any case, I am agreeing that we have to make some investments. I think we have to do a much better job of helping people understand that we're listening to them, that we understand housing is important. And here are our thoughts on how we go forward. And you want to try and make as many people feel good about it as possible. Will you ever get everyone? No. Will there always be people that are never happy? Yes. But we got to put some effort into it, because people don't feel like we're putting any effort into it. You know, they just don't. They feel like people are coming up with these plans and they aren't being asked. They saw 40% spending increase last year, 23 to 24. We don't know what's going to happen in 25. We're saying good things, but now we got to walk the talk. Those are all very important to our residents. The other thing I'll tell you is that again, we all hang around with different people, but I've been at events with the 40-something crowd up here. Granted, some of them don't live in Sister Bay, they live in Liberty Grove, but we depend on them. Owning businesses, multiple jobs, kids galore. We should be looking closely at what the projections are, because most school districts in the state are seeing their student populations on the decline. I believe we are flat at worst and slightly rising at Gibraltar. So, I mean, we might be making a little progress in terms of attracting people to Door County, and we should be factoring that in. I mean, we were at a party 2 weeks ago where there had to be 100 kids, all elementary school kids. I've never seen that many in my 20 years up here. It was great. So, you know, if we are making progress, we need to recognize that. Those are the people also that really want to have us explain to them that we're not going to cost them out of the county, because they're already working 2 jobs, 3 sometimes.
And I hear what you're saying, and I will, for somebody who has been on this board for 30 years, and as I stated earlier, that communication can always be better. There's something when you're here and it doesn't take that long being on the board or a committee to realize is that no matter what you try, sometimes you just can't reach people, and until it hits the newspaper, you don't hear from them. And so sometimes you feel like you're beating your head against the wall. I hear what people are telling you and what they're telling Louise, and I'm not discounting that at all.
I know.
But we can't lower our expectations because they won't raise theirs.
That's not fair. That's not fair though, Denise. We have to reach out. We have to go talk to people.
I talk to people
We have to,
all the
we
time.
need to hear what they have to say.
I talk to people
We
all
should
the
be
time.
looking at Survey Monkey and other methods to allow these parents to participate and give us feedback. I think we could do a lot more.
Mike, you know, we have done community surveys. And we've also done postcards to every house telling them there is a survey. And we've done the press releases, but we have, you know, I'm just thinking real quick, the Village Hall is a really good example. Where we sent a postcard to every single house. And I can't remember the response, every single house asking them to fill out a survey and we barely got anything.
But that's not fair either. If you're a parent or one of the single moms you're talking about, you think they have time for that?
Well, you were just talking about we should do more surveys. That was a
So-
survey.
Something that somebody, that they might be able to do it on their phone if it pops up. We're talking snail mail in their mailbox at the end of the street.
No,
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 it
it
was a
was,
postcard to go online and take a survey.
Yeah, I can't tell you, I read all my junk mail.
Well, it was just, like I said, it was in the newspaper, it was on the radio, and then we also mailed it. So, I mean, I don't know, to tell them these three.
Well, that might be a good committee exercise for the board to think about, is how do we get more community feedback? Right? Maybe we get certain residents to host events in their homes and invite people and board members into their home to listen to groups of 20 or 30 people at a time, hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I think, don't quote me on this, I think we spent $1,200 sending postcards to everyone to take a broadband survey. And we had, what was it, like a handful of people who replied. You know, when we tried.
That one I actually did. I still am not sure why we're adding broadband when I get better broadband service here than most of the country already. But that's another
You're one of the
issue.
few ones,
No.
or it's not universal, but,
Yeah.
Well, one thing, just to get us back on track, and I think this is all
Yeah,
great
yeah, I'm sorry.
conversation, but it's really interesting, about the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to look for just different opinions on things, and there's a couple different articles out there now, which is kind of interesting, and that is that in the United States, not Sister Bay, but broadly, and everybody is has a housing crisis. It's as much an income crisis as it is a housing crisis. And they talk a lot about it. The University of Kansas did a study and I can see that, you know, I can understand that in some places when they did this study, and this is not related to Sister Bay, and I really have to understand what criteria they use to determine if an individual municipality, Sister Bay, if we have enough houses and if we don't, how many more do we need? And what do they need to look like? But more than anything, how much do they need to cost based on the income of folks that live here?
Mhm.
And I think what impacts us most is that we are a destination economy. And that's just, we are a premier resort area. And that's why we have premier resort area tax. And that is our wages are driven by that. And as much as I've talked to folks about housing, I've talked to a lot of business owners about wages, which have gone up considerably. And I don't have to tell you, you own a business and a lot of other people, our average wage has gone up 30% because it had to. After COVID, it had to, or in our economy, particularly in season, they'll just go someplace else. They won't work for you. They'll go someplace else where they can make more money. And that someplace else could be across the street in Liberty Grove, could be down the 2 miles down in Fish Creek, or could be in Sturgeon Bay. So that's a reality and a fact that we have to face. And that's why we really, really, really need to understand if that's what our economy is based on. We can't just look at the economy in Sister Bay and understand that we are a resort community and our economy is based on that. We have to also look at where other people that might live here are gonna work and what the wages look like. And that's what affordable is. You know, yeah, we've got people that move up here, are retired, and they can afford a more expensive home. We have seasonal homeowners who are fortunate enough to have a home here and a home someplace else. But what do they, you know, what we have data that tells us that 50, 60 grand here is a lot. It's a lot here. What, if you're making 50 grand here, what can you afford?
If you're the only one making the money, you're
Right, if
considered
you're
low
not-
moderate income.
Right, if you're not,
Yeah.
if it's not a two-income what can they afford? And then what do we have to do to build that for them? What's it gonna cost? What's it gonna cost the village? And then if we can't afford that, how do we get money from the feds? How do we get money from the state? We won't get any money from the state unless they got it from the feds, right? Chances are, not gonna happen. So that's what, I think that's what we have to
I
do.
mean,
We all,
there's
I
that,
think we all agree, you know, as much as we disagree about other stuff, we all agree that we need this, but the other thing that worries me down the line is, can we manage that many more people that are living here? And that's a way different conversation, but
I think when you talk about, you know, what is affordable,
mhm,
I think, and it is different for every single family, individual,
Right.
couple, one child, two child, three children. But if you go by, it's just a rule of thumb.
30% of the income goes to housing.
25%, yeah.
Okay,
So whatever it is, that
so if you did the
That's
math, you just grab your calculator, I'll take mine.
$1,200 it's $1,200 a month if a single person is making 50 grand.
I can't remember, but they're. What is the average?
Yes, 57, gross or net? Gross, that's 57.6. So let's say it's 50, if it's 50 grand a month, right, or 50 grand a year, times 0.25, they can afford to spend $12,500 on housing. And if you divide that by 12,
$12,000 a month.
it's $1,000 a month. What does that buy them here? And for, it does, well, we don't,
Nothing right now.
we don't price, we don't price, well, one of the reasons is because we don't price apartments that way, because we don't build any apartments, the new ones, smaller than 2 bedrooms. But if they need more than 2 bedrooms, they're gonna pay $1,500 to $1,800. Just what, unless they qualify for the Shoals or something like that. That's what they can afford. So how, if you backed into it then, how do we build apartments, build small houses or something that falls into that? I mean, if it's two income family, great, but if it's a single person,
So what is that? So we've got so far off track. What does that have to do with Julie's?
Well, the point,
It doesn't
I
have
think
anything
the
to
point
do with
is,
it,
we
but-
have a bigger problem than just this grant that we have to figure out.
yeah. I just don't want to I don't want to, like, we get the grant, let's start infrastructure. I guess that's really what I'm worried about, because I don't know what we start infrastructure for, like, what are we gonna do out there?
Well, and that's why it talks about you need to have your conceptual design put out there.
Yeah.
They have to draw that, you
Yeah.
have to, everybody has to agree on that, then you have to get the bids on the infrastructure.
Well, maybe that's why they give you so much
So,
time.
so what about annexing some Liberty Grove land, changing our building codes, allowing for a shared septic and shared well system, where on a 5-acre parcel we annex. We could put 5 houses, then you might be able to get, without putting infrastructure, right? Gravel driveways, rural living, farmhouse designs of 1,000 feet. I mean, we're gonna have to think out of the box to solve the problem. I mean, if we keep sticking to, we gotta have Sister Bay infrastructure, Sister Bay this, Sister Bay that, I don't think we got a chance in heck. I just don't,
You have to pay for your infrastructure though.
but I just gave you another option.
Liberty Grove has that meeting, they're gonna have a public meeting about.
We have to annex it, cause they're raising their variance, well, they could use accounting, I think,
Well, I'm
right?
curious, I'm gonna go to
They're
the
under
meeting and
council.
see what they have to say. I don't know, it's the first time they've ever had a meeting about it, I think.
You regarding their housing that they sent the survey out on?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the first survey I've seen. They did talk about housing a while ago.
They
'cause I
did,
was asked to
you're
go up
right,
and
you're right, you're right,
talk
that's
to them
not fair,
for
they
2
have.
years.
All right, I know we're way off track.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
just saying
it
that
was
we
a good
could, you know,
discussion.
it was good, but, yeah, if you just take a look at some of this stuff, it looks a little, I just worry about 225 grand. Home, 3-bedroom home, whether we're gonna be able to do that. It seems out of reach. Well, we've beaten that to death. Do you need a motion?
No, it was,
No,
and then just Jerry's comments was, I think getting the grant
liked
to
it,
keep the
yeah.
affordable housing projects moving forward is great. Looks like a tremendous amount of work.
so Julie, if you want something in the minutes stating that,
I am going to, the thing I got out of it was, Mike would like to see more clarity on where the sources came from.
I would double check them, maybe it's just the
You have to
language
send that in
around
with the
them.
grant anyway, am I right? No. But if they ask, you have.
I
Is
have,
that a public record? Do we have to publish that? People get to see it, the locals get to read it.
It's out there.
it's out there
It's
already.
been out
Oh,
there
it's
for a
on,
week.
yeah, it's on the.
Yeah, it's been out there for a week or 10 days.
It's already up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the draft is out there.
That's where we got it from.
And then the other one was that Louise questions whether you can build a home
I
for
just
those prices.
maybe ask him again, but you know, if you didn't. I don't even know if it needs, if it's that critical for the grant, to tell you the truth, but
I think Louise also asked if we were fortunate enough to get the grant. What are the requirements? Right, all of a sudden, if they want you to start digging in 6 months. You know, is that in our capital plan or not?
Like I said, I have to go back and look at the time frame they allow. It's a couple of years to start it and complete it.
I think it was 2030 if I look, but I could be wrong, I could be off.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that.
I think it was like a 5-year completion timeline, but I can't remember.
What was the starting though? 'Cause a lot of
See,
times those have
I
started.
thought there was something much sooner. But it, like I said, it was a lot to
Yeah,
read,
I
it was a
don't
lot to
remember.
absorb.
So Denise, I think you might be thinking of the Village Hall one. That one has to be started in 25
No, it
and
was-
finished in.
When I talk to you tomorrow, you'll clarify that for me.
I have a quick question. This is like way in left field, and then I promise I'll will adjourn. Have we, when we look at like the infrastructure stuff, have we looked at the Kupak study? You know that study?
Yes,
I
I'm
worked on
familiar
that
with
study.
You did, and that's what we're using?
We use that depending on what project we're on, we still look at that.
And we use that for Wiltshire, right?
No, so
Meaning like if we took Autumn Court out that way and stuff, would we use that as part of that
No.
infrastructure?
we look at what the engineers recommend, so.
Okay.
Yes, it would come off Autumn Court. But it's not gonna go that full length back to that 18 acres, if you remember right.
Yep,
And so when the Quebec study was done, it had a lot of forecasting in it that we were still in line with.
Okay.
But we still have to have the engineer look at current numbers and make sure
I
that. we're
understand
still on
that.
track with it.
I came across it and then I called Coffrin. I'm like, I don't understand this at all. Cause it's really hard to understand.
Not
That's
if you
it.
worked on it
I know
for 2
Denise, and I
years.
said, I'm assuming that Denise knows about this. He goes, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, because I just need, no one, because it had never come up in any of the conversations. I know I'm new to this. It had never come up, you know, and but it also, what piqued my interest was that it kind of but there was incorporated Liberty Grove, right?
Yes,
Stuff that comes
Yeah.
from there.
yes.
That's why I thought, okay. All right. Sorry, just was curious.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, a lot of those plans that are out there, people forget about it or don't know about. But they're still being followed. It's just at
Yeah.
a staff level, you're
Right.
just doing your work. You're just doing what, not out there talking about that.
No, I
but
totally understand that. It's just, yeah, you try to get through the task.
You're using those plans though as
Okay.
your foundation.
All right. Okay, let's see. My laptop is timed out, so we'll be talking too long. All right, I am back to,
Page 77.
thank you. Administrative report. Are there any questions, or Julie, did you wanna?
So One of the comments was, just to elaborate on going garbage, because I didn't put that in here, or an update on going garbage. So I did talk with Jeff and, Jeff is interested in working with us at this point, but he needs more information. So we were trying to line up a facility that we could go to and tour together to see how it was operated, what kind of manpower did it need, you know, what kind of space, was there a lot of garbage, what do you do with some of the byproducts, stuff like that. Trex gave us the name of a company in Green Bay, and I've been working with her, and just today I found out it's not in Green Bay, it's actually in Minnesota.
Oh,
But Jeff had went out to Minnesota a couple weeks ago, and he had said, if there's anything in Minnesota, I'd like to look at it. So I did reach out to Jeff today, and I just said, Jeff, this is in Minnesota. Are you able to do it? I wouldn't be able to go with them.
so a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. It's still moving forward.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. I have a question about Karen Burt and her request.
Yes.
She doesn't want. We didn't remove when, oh, sorry, the cul-de-sac that we didn't remove when Northwoods was extended.
Correct.
Remove the cul-de-sac that we didn't remove.
It was a dead end,
Yeah,
and then when the road went through, that was the previous, DPW.
okay.
So if we want that, I can put that on an
So
agenda.
93 grand to,
Jerry
remove
had
the
a comment on that.
So now it just goes all the way through, right? Because there's no cul-de-sac, boom, it went through. So what it is
It's
straight,
straight the round.
gotcha. So you have a straight road, round, straight road. And she wants it removed?
Right.
Okay, just because of the aesthetics or danger or? Don't know,
I don't know.
okay. Okay.
We can put it on our agenda, or we can just forward it to finance. Obviously, you know, it's not going to get put in the budget for next year,
Okay,
as chair of finance.
okay. And then you and I think Julie and Denise had talked about closing the this is vandalism at the restrooms at Gateway Park where the old schoolhouse is.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of, you know, we just had some damage at the library. That table, if God, I can't remember, I want to say around $2,000.
So somebody got into a fight there and something happened. with it.
This one, they
Okay.
literally kicked a hole through it.
Stall door at Gateway Park was kicked. So the stall door into the, not the door to get into that room, but to get into the stall where the toilet
Yeah,
is.
last time
Okay.
it was the door
I
to get in the
remember,
room,
yeah,
and now it's to get into the stall.
okay.
So. Without committee direction, I think that Eric and I are just gonna close that down.
It won't be used too much because, I mean, there's people that do go there, but after Fall Fest, rarely.
But I think other than the doors just being locked, there needs to be some kind of signage. Bathrooms closed,
Yeah, to at least let them know.
non-functioning.
Yeah. And maybe for next year, I wonder, because I think at night it's pretty dark there. I wonder if we should put some,
Well, maybe we don't open them next year, so maybe if, you know, SBA doesn't use that anymore.
no, but the Historical Society is using it more and more. Which is a different discussion. Right? But,
Maybe we should just put it on a future agenda to talk about.
well, I think we should, because I think
Okay.
maybe for the.
And then we
Historical
could ask
Society, yeah,
the Historical
I think that would be a
Society
good idea, yes.
about their usage.
Yeah, because I think that, and it's a great, another way to engage people in the history of the village.
And then the crosswalk painting, the woman that I had talked to is, working on a design just. for us
Marie
to
Kimball, I know
consider.
Marie. She used to work at, she worked at the Miller. She's a great girl.
And then the other thing was the QR codes, we talked about that at the last meeting, so I did some research on that. You want that put forward on
I do, I like that idea. We should talk about that and the plaques. Mhm. It would be nice.
Julie, I don't, when, on page 82, when you were talking about, the schoolhouse in Gateway Park, it was never a Sister Ray Schoolhouse. It came from
It
Liberty
was from
Grove.
Liberty Grove, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The
But
Historic
we don't
Society.
do a lot of that around the village, and I think it would be good. I like the way that Bailey's Harbor. has
And you
done
talk
theirs.
about, the stone story on the post office in the village hall, but I don't see Berto's listed there where the same stone came from.
I agree with you 100%. You and I had talked about that. And I teased you that one day that we should put a historic society's, thing in front of your gas station and you didn't laugh, so I think I just didn't.
I mean, I also think, to engage our business community, I always talk about the fire of 1912 because it was
Yeah.
just, it was a big to-do. But just, when Emma had Husby's, I mean, we could have it on our businesses too,
Yeah.
or where
Or the
Spot
hall, that's third
is,
generation. Mhm.
where Grassy's is. I can't remember if that was Herman's Meat Market or if it was a different one.
I think that would be a great idea.
Um,
I mean, a lot of,
That
the-
too.
I mean,
I agree.
historic, just so guests and visitors could come and read that. I think that's an awesome idea.
That would be fun.
So I will, so anyways, that list, just real quick, was just an idea. I do talk about how inspiring Roots, Brazers, Husbies, et cetera, join in. So I'm just gonna put that whole memo on the next agenda. And then we
Okay.
can just talk it through what we need to do.
Okay.
I mean, the only two things I would think about, it would be nice. Now that's talking about spending money. I think the village should spend the money. And buy those signs and put them up and make sure they all look the same, but engage the local business that's there. To make sure we're not messing them up by putting it in front of the doorway or something, but. I think that's,
Well, no, I would like to talk to the businesses and put it on their structure.
Yeah.
it's a great
and
idea.
work
Yeah,
with them.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
It is.
Because even like Birchwood Lodge, that used to be my great grandparents' farm.
But I'm a geek and I read those things, so.
Hey, I'm the type of person who would like to see it stamped into the sidewalk, but I know I'd never get that approved, so I'm just happy.
I think the signs are almost
Yeah.
better.
Have you seen the ones in Bailey's? If you walked over to Bailey, should walk, where the, where the Peninsula Publishing is, where their building is.
Mhm.
And also actually where the Blacksmith Inn is, there's a bunch right there. You can park, get out, and when you walk along, there's photos of people. And then it tells a little bit of history. They did a nice job.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
actually-
suggesting we do the same, but it's similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah, I actually, the other day when I was going through by the church, somebody was standing there reading them.
Yeah,
So-
and a lot of people, because I work at the Pulse, there's a lot of people stand there and read, because I think I think that people would stop and read them and things, so it's something to think about. Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay, so, I guess keep moving, on to future, items for, to be placed on a future agenda or referred to committee, official, or employee.
Yeah, I got the list.
You got it? You're good, Janelle? Okay, so, could I please do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second,
All in favor?
I.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody online. If you're still there.
Janelle, here's your minutes.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, off to German food tonight.
Where are you going?
Hugo?
Hugo?
At Hugo House.